There's a lot of people in the comment section always asking, what knuckles do I hit with when I'm doing self-defense? I've trained for many different years and many different styles. Some say top one, some say middle, some say both, some say bottom three, some say with the palm. Stay tuned to find out. Okay, which knuckles do you strike with? Well, there's lots of things we have to talk about before we get to the knuckles, okay? First one is the natural alignment of your forearm. Whenever you're going to strike with something, we want the elbow to be behind our wrist, which is behind our knuckles. So if I'm going to strike something, I want to make sure that my wrist is in alignment with that. If it's bent and I hit it, I tend to have energy leak out here. This is where you could break things, or vice versa, it will leak out here. If this is all aligned, but your elbow is too high, you're going to mess your shoulder up. If your elbow is too low, you're going to mess your shoulder up. We're going to get to those in more detail. So which two knuckles do you actually hit with? In karate and taekwondo, when I first started training, they talked about the top two knuckles. This is your ulna bone, this is your radius bone, right? The reason why they said that is you want the most natural alignment that you can get out of this, right? So if these line up, that's great. You can go ahead and strike through that. But if you notice, if you guys make a fist at home and you don't have any training, right? You'll naturally line up to that middle knuckle, or maybe even like your second last digit, your ring digit. Okay, or ring finger. So when you're here, you actually have to train. So let's go back to the old school days of Taekwondo school. I'm in my Sensei Gary Lloyd. I'm in his school. We're in his garage, right? And we have to train to build strength in our wrist, right? So we're rocking up to those knuckles. We keep a nice alignment, like I said, and then we go into our push-up position and we would rock forward to those top two knuckles. We do our push-up, we come back up, we rock back, we rock forward. Okay, so that's a great way for you to be able to train. Typically in boxing, they hit with those top two knuckles as well, but what do 95% of boxing or kickboxing schools or Muay Thai schools train? To wrap your wrist and to wrap your knuckles, right? So they're just trying to protect themselves, but they wear big padded mitts all the time. So it's a little bit different because they don't break stuff. Still good, still creating good habits, elbow, wrist, knuckle alignment, not knocking one or the other, just giving you guys information. Then I started training Shaolin Kung Fu. Shaolin Kung Fu said it has nothing to do with your bone. It's more so about the alignment of your chi or your energy. For those of you guys that don't believe in chi, don't call it chi, just call it blood flow, and then it's way easier and we can be on the same page. I like that idea. I hit with my middle knuckle. I don't have to temper my wrist or build up my wrist strength too much. The alignment is pretty much the same as what these guys are talking about, is just going through the middle of the forearm and up, and it's like, okay, that makes sense. And I started breaking boards, and it still worked. So whether I hit with my top two knuckles or my middle knuckle, it still was working. Okay, well, who's right or who's wrong? Fast forward like a decade later, I'm doing Wing Chun Kung Fu. Wing Chun Kung Fu says, it's your bottom three knuckles. Bottom three knuckles. Wow, that doesn't make sense to me because boxers always said like that's your number one boxer's fracture. Is it hits the pinky bone then shatters your what's called your pisiformis bone, all those little tiny bones inside your wrist, right? So I'm striking with my bottom three. What I did like about this was in close range, that's much easier to hit than having to be out at a longer range where I could let that elbow flare or I could twist or spiral it out. So the bottom three worked nice and close. It still breaks really well as long as you temper your hands. What I did like about that though, and what I started noticing as I went back to my old school ways of the traditional Japanese martial arts, and I said, okay, let's do a test with like new students, not students that have been with me for years. I say, go onto your knuckles. And right away, everybody went onto their knuckles, and lo and behold, they were on those bottom three naturally. So they went to that position, they held that there, right? And I was like, hey, go to your top two knuckles. And you start seeing like wiggly wrists, and it's really hard. And this bottom position was a lot stronger. That's because this ulna bone never moves. It's always locked in place, unlike the radius bone. So now everybody has a whole bunch of things that are right and not necessarily wrong. So what should you hit with? Well, in the self-defense world, you don't want to hit with your knuckles, right? You guys got to work the next day. So if you go to punch with your knuckle and you break your hand, you can't go, say if you type, you can't type the next day at work, right? Or especially if you work with your hands, like you might have to take 2 to 3 weeks off. So go to your palm. So the palm, we're looking at the L of the hand, right? goes down through here, goes this way. I'm striking, I can still do damage. The old analogy of hard hit something soft. What do I mean by that? If I'm hitting something soft, I can use my knuckles. It's probably not going to break my knuckles. If I'm hitting something hard, I want to use something soft in order to be able to hit that. So again, who's right or who's wrong? Well, what's going to determine that? If my palm can hit, fantastic. But what if they're too far away that my palm can't hit and my knuckles can't hit? Well, now I have to hit with my fingers. Well, do you temper with your fingers? Right? A lot of people are like, use BG, attack the eyes, right? It was only when I trained Shaolin Kung Fu that my Shaolin master had students that could 2-finger punch a watermelon, okay? That's really strong fingers. Like, that's crazy. They have to grab sand all the time. They have to punch the sand. They have to build up all those supporting tissues, just like our wrists, just like our knuckles. So that's going to take a lot. So it's like, okay, well, what are you going to do? Well, let's move away from the board for a second and let's look at the face. What are we trying to strike, right? The goal is take your knuckles, chin always down, guys, okay, and punch the nose. If you punch the nose bleeds, the eyes hopefully water. It's the center of the target, just like if you're shooting somebody, don't go shooting people now, okay? You aim for the center of mass, just like they taught us in the military. You're not trying to be a headshot guy. So I like that idea. Hit the center of the target. It should be pretty good. But if I'm throwing a hook punch from the side, well, if I miss the nose, it's not going to work out so well. So they say aim for the jaw. Ideally, you're aiming for the mandibles. So the mandible is your jaw. There's a line right here. You can see a little bit of a pressure point into the back, right? So you're trying to hit that. Works great in theory. The only thing is when you're going to hit a board, the board doesn't move, nor does it hit back. The person wants to hit back, and they don't want to get punched. So it's very hard to hit it. This is why when we transition to our mitt drills, I like the mitt. Number one, look at the mitt's the same size as his face. Pretty sweet. Two, you're just trying to hit the mitt. Yes, you can try and aim for the middle of it and you hit your knuckles perfectly on there. Well, which knuckles do you hit with? Some mitts have this kind of curvature on it here. So it's actually teaching the coach to hold it down a little more. So the knuckles hit there so you can feel the impact across all your fingers and ideally to the top of the knuckles, or you just have big ass mitts on and that's just where you need to hit it, right? The angle of this changes. So how do I use the coach mitt to help me? If I see it flat, that's like his face. If I see it down, that's like his face is down more. This equals uppercuts to me. If I see it angled, we'll just use this one for you guys. If I see it angled this way, I'm trying to hit the side of the face. If it's angled here, again, same side, maybe a hook punch, right? Maybe an elbow. There's many different things. So uppercuts, hooks, elbows, jabs and crosses. Nice work, right? So it's all this, wow, there's lots going on. So when you're training, you're trying to hit the center, right? But look, if I hit with the top knuckle, my first knuckle, to the center, I might break my pinky if I miss. If I aim to the center with my middle knuckle, at least I'm kind of the best of both. If I'm aiming that second last one or my ring, maybe I break this knuckle. If I aim with my pinky, well, now I miss here. Wow, there's a lot going on there, right? So why not just hit with the center? If you take the best of all of that, just aim for the center here. When I temper my hand, right, I beat a bag of sand or a bag of marbles. When I'm tempering, I train for all of it, right? And the reason why is not just because it's like, I'm honoring my Taekwondo sensei, I'm honoring my Shaolin sensei, I'm honoring my Wing Chun sensei. No. What I'm doing is I'm tempering of, I don't know how I'm going to hit somebody in the face because their face may be at a weird angle. And as I go to hit it, I'm going to break my hand. So self-defense world, it's much easier. Hit with the palm and mitigate any damage you have. Stay safe out there.